If your survival is at stake, you fight like a madman with nothing to lose. And Israel displays this trait better than any other country. It's a tiny country surrounded by hostile forces, ready to eat it in one quick gulp. But Israel has proved its martial superiority over and over again. Under the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister who graduated from an elite commando force, Israel's fight or perish attitude is at its zenith. But that doesn't deter Israel's foes from trying to poke it. The recent poke was a mighty vicious one, silently aided by the White House. Any other country would have been smarting at its wounds, but not Israel. Israel has demonstrated its martial superiority again, and now the Prime Minister has begun the end of the evil force that constantly endangers the lives of Israeli people. Hi and welcome. This is TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. And I'm your host, Atul Mishra. In this video, I will tell you about Benjamin Netanyahu's way of restoring peace and why it means the end of Hamas as we know it. The ongoing Israel-Gaza conflict is no sporadic event. Israel is in no mood to stop, and it might as well ensure the end of Hamas. Hamas, the radical group that controls Gaza, made a huge mistake by firing around 2,000 rockets into Israel. In response, Israel has made it clear that Hamas will have to face horrid costs and consequences for trying to irk the Jewish nation. On Friday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said it will take time, but with great firmness, both defensively and offensively, we will achieve our goal to restore peace to the state of Israel. He also disclosed, we eliminated senior Hamas commanders and this is just the beginning. The Prime Minister also warned, we will inflict blows on them they couldn't even dream of. Netanyahu also disclosed that Israeli military would use increasing force. And the Israeli military is actually doing what the Prime Minister said. Over the past one day, Israel has pulverized Hamas leadership and their infrastructure with airstrikes, artillery cannons, tank fire, and ground troops. The Israel Defense Forces informed that 160 aircrafts flying simultaneously targeted the extensive network of tunnels dug by the Hamas group under Gaza City. As many as 450 shells were dropped by Israeli fighters, destroying 150 targets in northern Gaza. The air raid lasted 40 minutes. IDF spokesperson Hidai Zilberman described the underground network in Gaza as a strategic asset to Hamas. Presently, the IDF is assessing the level of damage caused to the tunnels in Gaza. Zilberman also said that apart from the aerial attacks, Israeli tanks, artillery guns, and infantry troops also launched an assault on those Hamas targets, which were on the offensive against Israel. However, Zilberman clarified that ground troops remained on Israel's side of the border, contradicting earlier claims by the IDF. In total, 500 artillery shells and 50 tank shells were fired in this round by Israel. Palestinians in Gaza claimed that these strikes lasted for over an hour and caused several fatalities. The air and ground assaults have, however, made it clear that Israel has meticulously collected intelligence on Hamas targets, which is being used to launch pinpointed strikes in Gaza. Israel is tightening its defenses and preparing for a long haul on the Israel-Gaza border. Some 9,000 Israeli reservists have been called up to join the regular troops on the border. The signs are clear. Israel could be preparing for raids inside Gaza by bringing in reserves to guard the border. Meanwhile, the toll in Gaza has already topped 100. Yet, Hamas continues provoking Israel, which ultimately leads to more retribution from the IDF. In fact, Hamas has crossed the threshold of Israel's patience. It has been reportedly using Shehab suicide drones. Hamas's wing, the Al-Qassam Brigades, claims that Shehab drones were developed and built locally. However, these suicide drones resemble Iranian-designed drones which have been used by Houthis in Yemen. In any case, if Hamas has started using lethal drones against Israel, then the Jewish nation could also use its drones to ravage the Hamas leadership. Earlier, Israel also rejected a truce offer made by Hamas. In fact, Benny Gantz, the defense minister of Israel, warned Israel is not preparing for a ceasefire. There's currently no end date for the operation. Only when we achieve complete quiet, we can talk about calm. The defense minister added, "We will not listen to moral preaching against our duty to protect the citizens of Israel." Similar signs are coming from the Israeli military. Army spokesperson Jonathan Conricus expects the fighting to intensify. Asked about the possibility of a ceasefire, Conricus said, "I don't think my commanders are aware or particularly interested." Israel's message is clear. It will not stop attacking Hamas unless there's complete quiet, even if it means the complete destruction of Hamas.